Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 AP English, the Roberts Lectures. We are in the poetry section and we now turn to the great Allen Ginsberg and a further proposal, his 1947 offering. Now, of course, Ginsberg, one of the very important poets of Room 303, born in 1926, dies in 1997. American poet, obviously as well an important philosopher. He was friends with William S. Burroughs as well as Jack Kerouac, and Jack Kerouac, of course, of the Open Road and the Beat Generation movement, as sometimes it's referred to. Of course, his most famous poem, Howl, is an important poem in 303. And we're going to now turn to his a further proposal. Now, the only way that you can read this poem and understand it is to appreciate earlier poems from the Elizabethan era. Of course, Marlowe's A Passionate Shepherd to His Love, as well as Sir Walter Raleigh's A Nymph's Reply. Now, we've already given lectures on this information at learnstrong.net. So if you're unfamiliar with those poems, that's where you have to start. I'm not even going to get into that because we've done that elsewhere. This is to say a further proposal, because in Marlowe's Passionate Shepherd to His Love, he is come live with me and be my love, and we shall all the pleasures prove. The whole poem is a proposal to offer the girl the only thing he has, which is to be a shepherd and live on the mountainside. And of course, Sir Walter Raleigh's response, the Nymph's Reply, is going to be a pretty harsh response that basically says no, because all guys are liars, and they say whatever they need to say to get whatever they want from the girl, and then they bolt. So what Ginsberg's going to do is he's going to play around with this in pretty sophisticated ways. Let's just enjoy his language. By the way, put in your notes at 2B already that the Elizabethan voice is not entirely lost in this poem, even though it's a poem of 1947. Let's just read it. A further proposal. Come live with me and be my love, and we will some old pleasures prove. Men like me have paid in verse this costly courtesy or curse. But I would bargain with my art, so to the mind, not to the heart. My symbols, images, and signs please me more outside these lines. For your share in recompense, you will be taught another sense. The wisdom of the subtle worm will turn most perfect in your form. Not that your soul need tutored be by intellectual decree, but graces that the mind can share will make you, as more wise, more fair. Till all the world's devoted thought find all in you it ever sought, and even I, of skeptic mind, a resurrection of a kind. This compliment in my own way, for what I would receive, I pay. Thus all the wise have writ thereof, and all the fair have been their love. Now, the beautiful thing about this poem is that it does capture Marlowe's Elizabethan tone and voice in the diction, in the word choice, and yet it's a pretty sophisticated and a very modern poem. Why? Because in earlier renderings of Come Live With Me and Be My Love, there was this notion of a transaction. I will give you something, and in return you will give me something back. But there was an understanding that it was patently, we might say, patriarchal in almost every way. Here, Ginsberg will play a completely different game. Notice, he begins with the idea, come live with me and be my love, which is, of course, just directly from Marlowe's offering, and we will some old pleasures prove. That is to say, there's going to be some of our relationship that will look very old-fashioned, but there's going to be a whole lot of our relationship, our exchange, if we can say it that way, that's going to be remarkably modern. He continues, men like me have paid in verse this costly courtesy or curse. In other words, sometimes men get to live with the reality of asking the potential lover, and the lover rolls his or her eyes already going, oh please, I've already heard this. This is that curse part. But, he says, I would bargain with my art. In other words, I'm willing to give up something as to the mind, now to the heart. In other words, there's things that we gain and there's things that we lose in the association of romance or love or exchanges of friendship. My symbols, images, and signs, that is to say he's a poet, please me more outside these lines. In other words, I would be far happier if our relationship was not predicated on some kind of ancient arcane notion of what relationships must look like. For your share and recompense, you will be taught another sense. In other words, I'm going to give you something not physical, but I'm going to share with you something of even greater importance. Namely, notice the colon, the wisdom of the subtle worm. Now, of course, subtle here and worm has everything to do with the Genesis 3 story, and we immediately in 3a think about Milton and Paradise Lost, and of course, the idea that there was the temptation that was provided, right? Namely, of course, to eat from the fruit of the forbidden tree, which was what? The knowledge of good and evil. By the way, the speaker of this poem doesn't necessarily have to be male speaking to female, right? Ginsberg himself, of course, is going to be possibly the speaker of the poem, but maybe another as well, right? It's possible. Not that your soul need tutor be. In other words, I don't have anything that I need to teach you by intellectual decree, but graces that the mind can share will make you as more wise, more fair. In other words, what I do have to offer you might not be in the form of knowledge, information. It might actually be something more closer akin to grace. We might even say the virtues, right? To continue in the last two stanzas then, till all the world's devoted thought find all in you it ever sought. And even I, of skeptic mind, a resurrection of a kind. Notice the R of resurrection is capitalized, and that's really the heart of the poem. Ginsberg geniusly is pointing out that the best way to love is to grow, and the best way to grow is to love, and obviously to exchange all of the things that make us human. It's a beautiful love poem in that regard. Notice, he calls it a compliment in the last stanza. In my own way, for what I would receive, I pay. Love, true love, and I think this is Ginsberg's point, is symbiotic. There is a giving, there is a taking. In the process, we think of the famous poem about love in Gibran's The Prophet, right? That notion of an exchange which is beneficial to both, and in so doing enhances both parties. For what I would receive I pay, thus all the wise have writ thereof, and all the fair have been their love. In other words, the truest writers, the truest thinkers have always understood this from the start. We immediately think of texts like Plato's Symposium that comes to mind, as well as, of course, the lectures that we've already given on LearnStrong.net for Marlowe, for Raleigh, as well as think about Marvell's To His Coy Mistress, as well as Herrick's To the Virgins to Make Much of Time. At 2a, and we've already sent a major message here. I love the idea of resurrection as love. All minds seek love because all minds seek resurrection. We think of the phoenix, obviously. At 2b, notice the mocking of the other poems that we've listed with the Elizabethan language. It is a modern version of a pre-modern kind of idea and poem. 3a, we've mentioned so many titles already. At 3b, what was a time when you tried to convince someone that you were worth it? It's a great question in relationship to this poem. What was a time you tried to convince someone that they were worth it? I think that's even more the case of this poem. That is to say, it's not something I'm going to take from you. It's something that I could gain by virtue of sharing with you. That is to say, love is symbiotic. I hope this will lead you to more of Ginsberg's great, great stuff. And of course, make you read Whitman as well, right? Thank you.